For as long as I can remember, my family was always poor. Not poor as in money is kind of tight. Poor as in we were living well below the poverty line. Poor as in this is what I got for Christmas every single year. Poor as in my entire family lived in a one-bedroom apartment not much different from this. Poor as in both my parents worked 2 jobs each and barely made ends meet. Because of this, I never had the same experiences or opportunities that a lot of my friends had. When I struggled in school, my parents couldn't afford tutoring. When I hit a growth spurt, I wore pants that were way too short because we couldn't afford new ones. When it was winter, we didn't turn on our heater. When it was summer, we didn't turn on our AC. Life without money was exhausting and depressing and demoralizing. And it made me jealous of people who had more than I did. I was angry at my parents for not being able to provide more. I resented myself for being such a burden to them. But even with all that said, I am grateful for those experiences because I believe that they gave me an advantage in becoming a successful entrepreneur. An advantage that allowed me to grow multiple viral YouTube channels and create 2 multi-million-dollar businesses. If you told 10-year-old me that this would happen, he wouldn't believe you. 10-year-old me would say, life's too hard, too miserable, too challenging for that to even be possible. But that's exactly why it was possible. So let's start from the beginning. Before I was even born, let's rewind about 50 years. My dad fought in the Vietnam War alongside the United States. When the war was lost, he was captured and taken to prison where he was completely isolated from his family and cut off from the rest of the world. He was fed nothing but potatoes and rice. As days went by, he found himself watching some of his friends die from malnutrition and others die from trying to escape and getting shot down. This lasted not for 1 year or 2 years or even 5 years. He was held captive for 8 years until he was let go. Fast forward to 1988. That's when I was born. Then in 1990, the United States had essentially what was a lottery that would grant veterans like my dad a green card to America, a safe passage to freedom, opportunity, and a better life for him and his family, a free ticket to the American dream. But as I was growing up, it didn't really feel like the American dream to me. Because my parents were so poor, I hated my life at first. I hated that other kids got new things that I never did. I hated that I was never able to have the latest video game or go to the movies or even turn the heater on. I remember one Christmas, I woke up so excited to open presents. I sprinted to the 3-foot fake Christmas tree that we had, and I grabbed the present with my name on it. I opened it as quickly as I could, and little did I know, this present would completely change my life forever. It was a small stocking filled with cheap candy. Now, it wasn't the gift that changed my life. It was what happened after. I looked at this present and I had a meltdown. I cried, I slammed doors, I screamed at my parents, and I told them, why did you get me this? My friend got a Game Boy and I got candy. And that's when my mom cried and sat me down and explained to me that we were poor. We couldn't afford it anymore. My dad talked to me after as well, and he said, Kong, I know that we're poor, but you have to understand that we are also lucky. We are lucky that I wasn't killed in the war. We are lucky that I didn't die in prison. We are lucky that the US government helps us pay for our apartment. We are lucky that we were able to find jobs. We are lucky that the American people welcomed us into their country so that we could have a better life. He told me, you are focusing on what you don't have, but what about everything you do have? If you only focus on all the ways you are disadvantaged, then you will be blind to all of your opportunities. That's why you must always remember that you are lucky. And this lesson changed the course of my life forever. I stopped dwelling on my disadvantages and started hyper-focusing on my opportunities. I didn't know it at the time, but this was the exact moment that started my journey as an entrepreneur. For the first time in my life, I stopped being angry at my parents for not making more money, and I tried to figure out how to make it myself. Here are some of the successful businesses I started from that point forward. Business number 1, vintage goodies. I went door to door asking my neighbors if they had any old junk they wanted to donate to me. Then I went door to door to the other side of the neighborhood selling this junk and called them vintage items. Within 2 weeks, I made enough money to buy a Razor scooter, which was the cool toy at the time. Business number 6, bootleg CDs. In middle school, CD burners just came out and my friend's dad had one. So I would check on Yahoo Music and AOL to see what albums were trending. Then I bought blank CDs for 50 cents and sold these same exact albums to kids at my school for $5. With this business, I made enough money to start buying myself lunch at school. Business number 14, textbook arbitrage. In college, I would find out which professors were scheduled to teach certain classes, and I bought a ton of their textbooks in June when school had just ended and prices were low. Then, when school started back up in August, I sold those textbooks to students for more than I paid for them, but way less than what the school bookstore sold them for. Here, I made enough money to pay for my own books and even part of my rent. Business number 17, simple pickup. In my senior year in college, I started a YouTube channel on something I genuinely loved, dating advice and self-improvement. I made videos that were seen by millions of people around the world and also created a 30-day program that helped people conquer social anxiety. After a couple years, I made over $2 million, enough so that my parents didn't have to work anymore. Business number 18, jump cut. And here we are today. Now I teach people how to do what I did. Start businesses based on their passions in life. Now, my parents can travel the world and take as many vacations as they want. I am truly happy and fulfilled. And looking back, the only reason I was able to find success is because I began reframing my disadvantages as opportunities. So growing up poor instilled in me the drive to become a great entrepreneur. Now, if you're watching this video, there's a good chance that you have your own disadvantages. Maybe you also grew up poor or in a bad neighborhood. Maybe you had a challenging childhood because of abusive parents. Maybe you've never felt accepted by society because you felt like you were different. Everybody has disadvantages. But no matter what they are, I encourage you to do these 2 things. 1, don't dwell on why your life sucks. The more you obsess over it, the more of a self-fulfilling prophecy it becomes. You need to stop thinking about the negatives so that you can free up some mental bandwidth to do step number 2, which is train your mind to look for opportunities. When you find those opportunities, pursue them. And when things get hard, when your disadvantages give you yet another hurdle to climb, or when you're in a position where you can feel yourself beginning to wallow in self-pity, remember this: you are lucky.